Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Alex, and welcome to the Beyond Half Court podcast. Once again, we are on episode number 6. Shout out to all the love on the last one. Got a lot of viewership on that on the YouTube side. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of go over what's been going on in the NBA world. We're so close. If I am remembering, are we less than a month at this point? So we're really close. So, we had Media Day, so we're going to go over some stuff that happened during Media Day because we got some, new contracts, trades possibly happening, that sort of stuff. Also, some just random discourse that I saw on Twitter that I thought it was interesting. That also has to do with trades as well, so we can talk about that as well. But in terms of shouting out my own stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at BHCT23. For my YouTube watchers, you can see it. It's right there. Go ahead and follow. Trying to stay active on that, even though I don't really have a lot of followers, not a lot of interaction, but we're going to keep it pushing. So make sure you join in on that. Join the wave. What else? I have another YouTube channel, Beyond Half Court. It's like Beyond Half Court podcast YouTube channel, but take out the podcast part, and then you have Beyond Half Court. That's my other channel. That channel I'm a lot more active on. I try to upload 2 times a week on Wednesday and Saturday. By the time this podcast is up, I'm pretty sure the last 3 videos that have been up are my Eastern Conference and Western Conference X Factors. And then I also have my NBA award predictions. So if you're interested in that, go check it out on my other YouTube channel. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it to... yeah, that's it. So let's get straight into it. We'll start off from right after I recorded because stuff happened as soon as I ended recording. The first piece of news is we have CJ McCollum of the New Orleans Pelicans has agreed to a 2-year extension of $64 million, and that will take him through the 2025-2026 season. This isn't the only move that the Pelicans did. The day that I am recording this, they have also extended Larry Nance Jr. to a $21.6 million contract. And I got to be honest, this is good. This is some good stuff going on with the Pelicans. Locks up some of their key guys for the next couple of years. Man, the Pelicans are such a crazy team to think about because obviously they have Zion, but Brandon Ingram is just continuing to get better. He showed a lot of promise in that first round against the Suns. I honestly think he could do the same thing in the regular season, being an all-star caliber player. And CJ McCollum, he's just going to bring that borderline all-star play that he really always has. So it's a great, thing to re-sign him, make sure that team stays good. They still have Valanciunas. I think Valanciunas is good. I think it'd be interesting to see how Valanciunas and Zion actually mesh, but I think it'd be pretty good. Valanciunas has improved as a 3-point shooter, and even just, the threat of him, being in the paint, like you can't really switch on to Valanciunas because Valanciunas will take advantage of any smaller player that's guarding him. So I think the fit will be good. Obviously, we think of the modern NBA, like you have to have a stretch big, but when you have such a skilled team like the Pelicans do, I don't think it's that big of a deal to have Valanciunas at the 5. Zion is also a really good playmaker as well for his position, so I'm not too worried about that. For Larry Nance Jr., I was actually thinking about it. So he got some good playing time, obviously, since Zion was out. He'll be coming off the bench, and I was thinking like, okay, what's the Pelicans bench unit looking like? So they'll have Devontae Graham, Jose Alvarado, obviously, for their guards. They have Jackson Hayes, most likely running that center position off the bench, which I personally like. He's also able to stretch the floor, so he could fit well next to Zion. And then you have Trey Murphy, and then you have Larry Nance Jr. So I'm assuming that they will probably put Trey Murphy at the 3. But I don't see him as a 4. Currently I think he's like a stretch 4 at this point. but I think you fit fine at the 3. So, I mean, just looking at the team overall, that bench is really nice. And then obviously your starters, you're going to have McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and Valanciunas. And man, I would not be surprised if they get up to those upper seeds, but even if they don't and they get to like that 5th, 6th seed spot, they're going to be a tough first round, man. It's going to be so tough. Like, they proved to be difficult just in that first round without Zion, and I can't begin to fathom what they look like with Zion. Super excited about the Pelicans. Going to try to watch a lot of games on that. So yeah, I like both of those extensions. I think it works out good, and they're also, especially for that Larry Nance extension, definitely tradable contract. I think at some point the Pelicans will probably have to decide who they're going to have to trade, because they may not want to go over not go over. Well, they would be going over the cap so that they would pay the tax. So I don't know if they would want to pay the tax. So, having Larry Nance Jr., he's a good bench player, and it's a very tradable contract. So, I think that's good. You keep them locked up, but if you got to trade them, it's easy to trade them. So that's a good one. And then obviously McCollum, it's good. So good job from the Pelicans. Next up, I wanted to talk about the Phoenix Suns, and there's a couple things here. So first, I want to talk about Jay Crowder. So Jay Crowder is upset that he's going to have to fight for his power forward position starting assignment. And honestly, that's kind of weird. Like, obviously, Jay Crowder is a really good player, and he can start on a good amount of teams. But I don't know. I just find it weird because Cam Johnson is going to start now. I just find it weird that a veteran like him doesn't want to fight for his starting position. And it's like Cam Johnson is good enough for, the team be like, hey, like, if you want the starting spot, like, you have to fight for it, right? If Cam Johnson was like some scrub, but the Suns were persistent on him starting, I would understand what Jay Crowder's saying. Like, yo, like, no, I got to start. And if you're not going to start me, then like, there's no point in me being on this team, because you're obviously trying to win. You want to have the best lineup possible. But I mean, if there is a serious debate on whether having Cam Johnson or Jay Crowder as your starting 4 makes you a better team, then I feel like you should be willing to fight for that. So I just find that personally weird. So because he's not getting that starting spot with the Suns, he asked for a trade. A couple of teams, just off the top of my mind, they're all teams that he's played with before. I think it was the Grizzlies, the Mavs. I think the Celtics were also in there. We'll talk about the Celtics later. What's another team? The Heat. He is definitely a team, and I think he, based off reports, is probably the top destination, not only like for him, but just in terms of like the fit. I said it on the last episode or the episode before, Jay Crowder. I think that was a thing that was going on then last week as well. I thought the Bulls would honestly be a good spot for him. They have Patrick Williams. He's going to be coming back, but if Lonzo's going to be out, it'd be nice to have another wing defender. But he probably won't end up going to the Bulls. He'll probably go to the Heat. And honestly, I think the Heat probably need him the most, because obviously they had Jay Crowder, and Jay Crowder left for the Suns. Then you got PJ Tucker, but now PJ's gone. He's on the 76ers. So, you've always had that, nitty gritty 3-and-D power forward guy. So I feel like the Heat are going to need him a lot. So hopefully he does go to the Heat, because that just makes things more interesting on the East. They're already interesting as is. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if the Suns are going to be in too much of a rush to trade him, but he'll probably be traded before the season starts. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But yeah, the next thing we want to talk about for the Suns is this DeAndre Ayton thing. I'm going to play a clip for my YouTube viewers. You can watch this clip. But if you're just
congratulations on
pause the video. If you're just listening, here is the clip right here.
Congratulations on obviously getting the deal. Just maybe your thoughts that you got that. Maybe what was your initial reaction once the Suns matched the Pacers offer?
I was happy. It was all done, I guess.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Congratulations on
So this video is hilarious to me because it's obvious that DeAndre Ayton does not want to be there. He's feeling like Eric Bledsoe right now. I do not want to be here. And honestly, I don't blame him. I think there's an obvious need for him to maybe want to be more of a focus on offense. And hey, maybe that does happen, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, just because now you're starting Cam Johnson, who is also a guy who gets a lot of touches for the Suns, and he's a very capable scorer. So I feel like if you're going to start Jay Crowder, that would definitely show maybe, or it would at least be a better sign of maybe DeAndre Ayton getting some more touches. But if you just put a more offensive weapon, on your starting lineup, then it just takes away touches from other people, right? So, people have said, and I personally believe, that DeAndre Ayton has not been utilized to his full potential. A lot of it has to do with, just Devin Booker being there as well. And just having so many really good players. There's just so many good players on that team. So when your third best player is closer to the fourth and fifth players compared to CP and Devin Booker, where those two have to be the number one and number two. It makes sense why he hasn't necessarily been utilized as much as he probably should. But I mean, Chris Paul is just getting older. He has to take that number two spot, in my opinion. But I just don't think that's gonna happen. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Monty Williams sort of thing. I know that there was also a clip. I think they had asked DeAndre Ayton if he had talked to Monty Williams since the Game 7 against the Mavs. I actually had forgotten that they both got into a verbal altercation there during that game. But they had asked if they had talked, and he said no. They asked Monty Williams. He's like, yeah, I really haven't talked to anyone. Just because he didn't want to be in everyone's ear over the summer, right? Give him a break from listening to him, which I understand. But the optics are a little bit bad, especially since DeAndre Ayton is a little upset about his situation. And, DeAndre Ayton is also upset about the whole contract thing. He would have ended up getting a lot more money if the Suns just gave him what he wanted, but that didn't happen. And then they matched his offer, but obviously the matched offer isn't what the max that he could have gotten, but it was still a lot of money, obviously. So a lot to be frustrated for DeAndre Ayton. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. He'll probably still be on the team, and I would hope that he would stay professional and just keep playing. But if it gets to the point where it's he's letting this affect how he plays, that's kind of a yikes. And honestly, it's a yikes not just because it sucks and you don't want to see that from a player, but if you're a team trading for DeAndre Ayton, it's do you want to deal with someone who's acting like that? He's still young. I understand that. There's a lot of potential towards him, but if he's young and he has this sort of attitude, is there still some room for growth in terms of just maturing? And ultimately, I don't think I would let that affect my view on him. I wouldn't really care all too much, but I feel like when you read these scouting reports of players coming into the draft, people were mad at Jaylen Brown because he liked to do other things and he liked to actually go to school compared to other student athletes who didn't give a crap about school. So they felt like he wasn't committed to the game, right? That sort of stuff. They just care about that. I don't, but I'm just bringing it up because they do, and they're the ones that make the decisions. So I don't know if it's another team, I'm not sure how they're going to feel about the way he, may or may not be handling the situation. So I think it'd be in his best interest to just kind of keep it professional if he does ultimately want to trade later on in the season. I don't think he can be traded until January or February, I believe. Because you do have to wait a certain amount of days after that contract extension through the matched offer sheet that the Pacers gave for Ayton. So the Suns will have to wait to trade him. We'll see if they actually do that. But yeah, things definitely don't look good for the Suns starting out the season. Obviously, they also have the Robert Sarver stuff. I honestly hope the Suns do good just so they can get over the Robert Sarver stuff. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if just everything that's adding up for this team. If they start off a little bit slow, but they should still be a pretty good team. Still one of the best teams, I would say, top 4. Somewhere in that conversation. But yeah, that's what's going on with the Suns. I guess something a little bit related to the Suns, and it may not seem that way, but we'll get there. So, there's a lot of questions about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his future with the Thunder, and that was kind of something that I was having a discussion with my best friend. He's an OKC fan, and I was just like, if you're the Thunder, like, don't you want to try to win now? And this was before the Chet injury. Now it's like you gotta lose to get the draft pick, right? But like when they had Chet, when Chet was still healthy before he got injured, and obviously Shai is injured right now, so this was before he was injured as well. It's like don't you think at some point like you would want to try to win, to try to establish some sort of winning culture? And it's like. And Shai also just signed an extension, but it's like you're just kind of wasting years of that extension. And, are you afraid that he may leave? And, he kind of talked me out of it. The OKC are set up for greatness with all these draft picks that they have, all these young talent that they're drafting. They're going to start winning eventually. It's not that they're not capable of doing it. It's just they're not there yet. So I've kind of slowed down on that. And it's so funny because as soon as I slow down on it, everyone is putting in the key, turning on the car, and they're going into third gear, and they're zooming in on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being traded from the Thunder. And, I think it's just kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I think we're mostly doing this because there's always one star that is like a Bradley Beal or Donovan Mitchell before he got traded. It was like, oh, yep, this is the next, biggest star that we're going to have that's on the trade market and that can move to a different team. I feel like Shai, to most people's eyes, is that guy. But I don't think he is. And it's mainly because, he's actually come out and says like, I know what I signed up for when I signed my extension. I don't think we're going to be losing for much longer. Like, this is something that he has literally said. It was said during media day. Let me actually see if I can find the clip real quick. Play it, because he has come out and said it, right? And usually, what will happen is people will have all this speculation, and there's nothing really said about it, so people can keep speculating. But here's the clip right here. I'm going to share it on the screen for my YouTube watchers. For you guys just listening, again, just listen.
So there's a lot of conversations regarding player movement on Twitter and on podcasts and things like that. And one that surfaced is the idea that maybe you would want out of Oklahoma City because of the losing the past 2 years. What are your thoughts on that kind of speculation?
Yeah, obviously we have lost more than we'd like to in the past couple of years, and it's not fun. With that being said, though, I know what I signed up for, and I signed a 5-year extension. Yeah. And I don't think we're going to be losing for much longer. So it's not like I signed up to lose or anything. Right. I believe in this team, believe in the players we have on this team. And I think we're headed in the right direction, and we'll be where we want to be soon.
Yeah. So
we have a literal, the source is telling us that he's going to stay, at least for now. Obviously anything can change, in the future, depending on whatever happens. We don't know what may happen, but he is committed for the long term, which you would think would stop any sort of, trade discussions or any sort of rumors about him leaving. But no, it actually doesn't. And this is what really annoys me. Because again, like, when people are speculating, a player usually doesn't come out and say anything about wanting to stay long term, except for Bradley Beal. I feel like Beal is just a different discussion, but like even with like Donovan Mitchell, like I feel like nothing was being said until he was eventually just traded, right? So, or Gobert was traded and then it started, right? But even beforehand, I think before Gobert got traded, I think people were still talking about, Donovan Mitchell possibly getting traded, right? So like if a player's not saying anything about the trade rumors, then they're going to keep speculating. But when the source is literally telling us that he is here for the long term, and we still have idiots coming out and talking about, Suns are going to trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they have all these picks, and we're going to trade 4 picks and Cameron Payne, and we're going to get Shai. It's like, no, dude, that's not how it works. That's not what's happening. And I want to show you guys too, again, for my YouTube watchers. I'm putting it up on the screen. But here we go. We have an article here. The bright side of the sun. Trading Crowder could set in motion a path for the Suns to land SGA. Jay has expressed he wants to leave. With an expiring contract, the Suns can make that happen and perhaps set themselves up for the future. So this article just kind of goes on and on about Jay Crowder wanting to leave. Gives a proposed Knicks trade for Jay Crowder. I don't know why the Knicks would want Crowder, honestly. Actually, I do know why. Because they want older players. They don't want younger, but that's just the Knicks being the Knicks. But we'll get down to this OKC trade that they have for Shai. And again, it's Dario Saric, who just had a pretty major injury in the playoffs. Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, and 2 first-round picks. And I know it has 2 first-round picks here, the 2023 and 2024 from the Suns. The article is also saying that they have some Knicks picks as well, and they would throw those in as well. So we'll just say they throw 2 Knicks picks in. No. This is not enough. First of all, this is not enough. And it doesn't make sense to me why the Thunder would do this. One, because they're trading to a team in the same conference. And the Thunder, other than the picks, aren't really, getting anything. Like, all these guys are eventually not going to be on the team anymore. So I don't understand. Obviously, you're trading the players for the cap space. That makes sense. But if you're the Thunder, like, you have the groundwork to start winning in the next year or two. So why would you trade your best player for some guys that aren't really going to help you get to that next level like you're planning to do right now? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So, like, unless you're, like, including DeAndre Ayton in this deal, or even Chris Paul, because, again, if you're going to have SGA on this team and you're not trading Chris Paul or Devin Booker, how is that going to work? So that's very, that's a very guard heavy offense. I'm not sure how well that would mesh. I know it sounds really good to put, a top 30, top 40 player, on your team, but I'm not sure how that would work. And again, like, you're not giving anything up in significance for the Thunder to really want to do this. Obviously 4 first-round picks is really crazy, but if they're planning, to start winning the next year or two, like, they need to get at least one player that will help them do that. And I mean, if you're going to give them DeAndre Ayton, and again, like, even if you give DeAndre Ayton, it's like you have Chet. Like, you're going to play Chet and DeAndre Ayton together. Like, I don't think that is a good fit, honestly. I'm not sure how that would work. Mikal Bridges is obviously a good player, but I don't think it's the player that OKC Thunder would be looking for. Obviously, Thunder had Chris Paul, but Chris Paul at this point is just getting older, so he would help in the short term, but not the long term, and that's what the Thunder want. They want a long-term solution, so you would have to trade Booker in that situation then. And you're not trading Booker. That's just not happening, unless you think Shai is better than Booker, which I personally don't. So again, the Suns wouldn't trade Booker. So this trade just doesn't make any sense to me. One, just because of the logistics of the actual trade, but then also because Shai's just not going to get traded. He's not on the trading block right now. There's no reason to have him on there, especially since he's coming out and telling us that he's not interested in leaving. He knows what he signed up for, and he's here for the long term. There's no reason to be talking about him getting traded. That is just so annoying. But we move on, and we go on to our next topic. We're talking about the Chicago Bulls for a little bit. Lonzo Ball had another knee surgery, and from what it seems like it actually, like, helped a little bit in sort of his pain. So he, it was believed that he may not even play at all this season. I think it could still technically be a scenario that happens, because when he originally got his surgery before, he had felt better, but then had some setbacks. So obviously that could always happen again. But it seems like, he'd be out for, a couple months, maybe more than a couple months, maybe like a majority of the season. But he may come back in the, later in the season. But man, I feel so bad for Lonzo. Also, just a quick random thought. Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz, the number 1 and number 2 pick of the draft, and they both have been absolutely screwed by injuries. I don't think that's ever happened before. Usually, like, it's one or neither. It's never both. I just thought that was interesting. Quick little burst of thoughts from my brain about that. But the Bulls are probably going to be a play-in team this season with Lonzo being out. Lonzo is just so valuable to the Bulls, man. His playmaking, he's such a good shooter now. He's shooting, 40% from 3. Obviously a great defender. Like him and Caruso were absolutely carrying the Bulls on defense last season before they had both eventually got injured. So losing Lonzo really sucks. And honestly, you don't really have a guard that can really fill in that point guard position. Obviously, you have Ayo DeSumo. You just signed Goran Dragic, Kobe White. Who else am I missing? Man, is there someone else I'm missing? I guess, you could technically run Caruso at the point guard, but he'll probably end up starting. Maybe Caruso does start at the 1. I'm not sure. We'll have to see who starts at the 1. But none of those guys really fill in the holes or even like elevates the team to the point like Lonzo Ball was doing. At least on the defensive end, Caruso could match up for, but the playmaking not so much. And I think that's gonna hurt the Bulls a lot. Bulls are really gonna have to stay healthy this season if they want to just like contend. But if injuries start piling up, they may not even make the play. And I don't know. The East is so talented. And if you're looking, my Eastern Conference predictions, there's a lot of talented teams, and there's teams that like are gonna make the play-in, like the Hawks. I think the Hawks are a play-in team, but that's not because they're bad. It's just because there's a lot better teams than them, right? So yeah, the Bulls are going to be interesting. I hope Lonzo Ball is able to come back this season. And yeah, that's pretty much about it with the Bulls. I don't think anything else was going on other than that. Couple more things. I still don't want to. We'll go to the Celtics. I don't want to talk about the Ime Udoka situation right now. Still, I don't think there's enough information coming out. But I will just quickly note September 30th, the law firm probe into Celtics coach Ime Udoka found crude language in his dialogue with a female subordinate prior to the start of improper workplace relationship, an element that significantly factored into the severity of a 1-year suspension. So that's kind of the newest news that we have about that. I still don't think there's enough information to truly talk about this. So I'm going to hold off on talking about it. But once we get some more information, I definitely will talk about it. And you'll know because it'll probably be the title of the podcast. So again, be on the lookout for that. But also the Celtics, they just signed Blake Griffin to a 1-year, fully guaranteed deal. And honestly, it's whatever. It's a whatever deal. I think some people were wondering why the Celtics may have not signed Carmelo Anthony, especially since Gallo got injured as well. I think some people thought Melo and the Celtics might be a fit, but honestly, if you think about what's happening now, Robert Williams is obviously out for a little bit. I think Blake Griffin would just be a better option to fill in that Robert Williams, hole, I guess. Blake obviously isn't the greatest defender, but like he can match up with some bigs 4 and 5. Still able to stretch the floor a little bit. Still a good passer. So, he'll be passable, and you don't have to give him heavy minutes. So I think he'd fit in pretty good. But yeah, that's really it for the Celtics. The Blake Griffin signing is fine. Once everyone's healthy, he probably won't be getting any playing time. So that's not really a big deal. So yeah, we're done with the Celtics on that. Another extension, Steven Adams of the Grizzlies signed a 2-year, $25 million extension. That's cool. it's another tradable contract for them. Steven Adams is obviously a really good rebounder, one of the best rebounders in the league. And that's really all I have to say about it. Grizzlies are going to be good. Steven Adams is a cool player. Love him as a personality. Big dubs all around. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for media day news, I guess. It was actually funny. Something that made me laugh really hard was the fact that people were realizing that Danny Green was actually on the Grizzlies. I had forgotten about that, and it brought up a great meme that people had before Danny Green was even on the team, and I'm going to put it on the screen. The fact that Danny Green and Dylan Brooks are on the same team, and Dylan Brooks is at least on NBA Twitter is considered the evil Danny Green. So I thought that was funny. They have a side by side picture of them together. Yeah, man, I could see the resemblance. They got the goatee, kind of a big forehead. I think the braids or the dreads. I'm so bad with that terminology. I'm white, so I don't know what those are, but obviously that really makes Dylan look like an evil villain. So I get it. I like this. This is a good meme. But yeah, I also want to talk about the Lakers, but I think I'm going to save the Lakers for my other YouTube channel because I have a lot to say about them. So if you're interested in what I may have to say about the Lakers, because the Lakers had a projected starting lineup, I think the other day, of Russell Westbrook, Kendrick Nunn, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and then he had Damian Jones at the 5. So I thought that was pretty interesting that we could talk about the, just overall season for the Lakers, why I personally think they will still suck. And yeah, that'll be over on the other channel, the Beyond Half Court channel. And yeah, that was pretty much all the news. Not a lot of news, but still a good amount to talk about. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure that you guys like and sub. Look out for my next podcast episode next week on Sunday. On the YouTube side, I may be cutting up into, parts of this video into shorter videos. I'm still trying to figure out how I may want to do that or not. This is all still a learning process to me. So bear with me on that. Something I actually didn't mention in the beginning, if you're listening on YouTube and you would prefer just to listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Spreaker, you can do that. Those are 3 other platforms my podcast is on. And then if you're listening to just audio, you can check me out on YouTube. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but we're here now at the end. So make sure you guys do that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.